You're tuned in to Shake, Rattle, and Goal, the official podcast of your Springfield Thunderbirds.
Osmanski, a one-timer deflected side of the goal. Alexandrov scores! Hosted
by Matt Baker and Steve Forney. A show that's everything Springfield hockey, with interviews including players, coaches, and staff.
The Springfield Indians repeat as the Calder Cup champions.
Listen to this podcast on all major streaming platforms and wherever you download podcasts.
In his first year at the helm, Kevin McDonald and Drew Bannister have the Teamers in the Calder Cup Finals.
Watch the podcast on the official Shake, Rattle, and Goal YouTube page at SRG Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Matt Baker and Steve Forney. And this episode number 27 of the Shake, Rattle, and Goal podcast is proudly brought to you by our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and their new location in Amherst. Also by our friends at YOLO Healthcare Consulting, bridging the gap for those traversing the healthcare landscape. And speaking of landscape, our friends at Landscaping That Fits for all your lawn care needs. They service everywhere from East Longmeadow, Agawam, Springfield, and the Wilbraham areas. Alongside Matt Baker, I am Steve Forney. Matt, it's a great time to catch up with you weekly, as always, here for another episode of the SRG podcast.
Here it is. We're winding down here in the season, and here we are, still going strong. I love it.
That's it. We're doing well. I do want to open up the show with a big thank you to Nate Costa and the ownership group for a great night, Monday night. All the front office staff and myself was invited, which was very nice of them. They didn't have to do that, but we all boarded the Thunderbirds team bus, went down to Boston, had a nice little suite up there on the 6th floor, and watched the Blues absolutely manhandle the Bruins. And it's kind of funny. Somebody said, I think St. Louis is just like our team. When they play the good teams, they play well. When they don't, they don't.
Right.
But it was a blast. We had such a good time. It says a lot about the people that Nate hires. I mean, they're just all great people. I only see these people on game nights, so to be able to actually hang out with them a little bit was a lot of fun. It was good to be back in my old stomping grounds at the Garden. Although it was a reminder why I made the decision that I made to leave for a variety of reasons, the commute and everything else. I ran into somebody I used to work with very closely, and let's just say I'm glad I don't work there anymore.
We've talked about it how many times, just of this organization from top to bottom, they do it the right way, and I think they have it's a business obviously, but they have sort of their business morals, if you will, right? And they stick by them, and I will always give Nate and the front office staff credit for that, because I think they do a great job.
And especially the child who works there now, who I had a run with. But anyway, the other thing too that I think people like Luke need some props for is, last night was Hometown Heroes night at the Garden. No pregame ceremony, no ambulances on the ice, no, at one point during one TV timeout, the owner presented a check for X amount of dollars to some organization. That is the extent of Hometown Heroes night at the TD Garden, compared to what goes into the production and the support and the community, recognition that we do here in Springfield. It wasn't even close. So you talk about AHL versus NHL. It wasn't. Hometown Heroes in Springfield is just so much more where it's at.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everything, it's the same sport. It's a different skill level involved, right? But I feel like everything around the AHL and minors, even in baseball a little bit, a few games a year going to the Hartford Yard Goats, they just seem to kind of get it. And this is from my perspective as just a simple lower middle class family guy. I'm not affording luxury seats at the Garden. I can't afford taking multiple trips to see professional athletes, so I think they just kind of understand their audience, and they do it right. Do you think it's a bit of organizations, and not specific to the Bruins at all, but you've been in the Bruins organization. Do you get a sense that just like these bigger sports teams, the bigger business of it knows they are too big to fail, and you
Oh yeah,
might
no,
get
it's
right? You
it,
might have some mean emails or a mean tweet, should have done more, but guess what? We're still going to sell the Garden out next
right.
home game,
No,
right?
it reeks of pretentiousness. It really does. I
Yeah,
mean, the whole vibe, and I mean, again, you talk like a family of 4 cannot afford to go to a game there.
yeah, yeah,
So, and I've said it for years, when you go there, and even when I was working there, you look in the crowd, it is normally a white middle-aged dudes who probably just got off their accounting gig in the back bay, and their boss gave them tickets that they get through the company, and they spend $180 on a team jersey that they bought in the pro shop before the game, and they put it on over their dress shirt, with the
yeah,
collar
yeah, yeah. I've seen
the
it.
top of the
Yeah.
jersey. You know exactly
Yep.
the type of person
Yes.
I'm talking about, with a perfect haircut and a perfectly groomed beard. And that is who goes to these games. Now, I don't know if that's how it is across the whole league, but it is and again, know your audience. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they'd have more kid stuff if parents could afford to bring their kids to the games. But
Fair. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know what they're handing out for tickets for hometown heroes nights, but that no, their a target audience is very much different than ours.
Yeah.
And I'm mostly financially. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So, I'm happy here in Springfield, and I don't really plan on. It was cool to be back in my old seat. It was
Yeah.
cool to go to the old seat and see it, but no, it's I'm a little bit more blue collar, I think, for the NHL. So,
Well, I know we're happy to have you down here.
well,
In
I
413.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. And speaking of announcers, the guy who wants my job and is and does a really nice job, and I pick on him a lot, but he's come a long way. Is Brady Deniston's going to join us for our fan feature.
Yep.
So we'll have that coming up for you in a little bit as well. I can tell you right now, neither one of us really want to spend a lot of time talking about Bridgeport. I feel like every week we come in here and we just whine and complain about Bridgeport for way too long.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk a lot about Saturday night against Toronto, which I thought had a little bit of everything. I thought that was a really entertaining game.
Mhm.
And then of course the Sunday game against Providence, to where you walked away thinking, the score put aside, that they actually played pretty decent. They hung around with a team that I think we can say is much better than them.
Yep.
And they hung around, but just as quick as we can, going back to Bridgeport, another game where you give up almost 40 shots a game. I guess the only new thing that I'll say is I don't think Bridgeport is as bad as its record. And I think that if they didn't start the year as terribly as they did, I think that it would be them and not either us or Lehigh Valley in that last spot, because I look at that team and it took Mike Maggio a little while to get going.
Yep.
Ruslan Ishakov is a legitimate NHL player.
Yeah.
He's
Did you
ridiculous.
see that? Did you see that?
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
shootout against
Yeah.
Hartford. Oh my God! It made Sports Center.
Yeah, I believe it.
ESPN
I mean,
top 10. And just funny again. I don't really want to talk about the game either, so we'll take up a little bit of minute, right, doing this. But Tyler, my oldest son, and Jake for that matter, they love the top 10 Sports Center top 10. So on the weekends, when I'm watching it, they love watching it, and they always like, how come there's never any AHL highlights on it? And I'm like, it's just not. It's a local audience. It's not meant for a national audience, and this that. And so they're watching the top 10, and I think Ishakov's game winner overtime shootout, I think, was like 4 or something like that. And the boys just went nuts. Oh, it's Bridgeport. Look at that. I'm actually cheering for Bridgeport. So, but what a move between the legs. I think it was top corner over his blocker shoulder.
Yep.
Oof, nasty. He's good. He is good.
And the confidence. I mean, the way he carried that puck in, he was like, I know right what I'm going to do,
Yes.
and I'm going to score, and it's going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I look in the back, and Dennis Cholowski is good, and Hutton is good, and they have good players on that roster. Cole Bardreau is just a pain, and he's a real good, hard-nosed hockey player. So I really do. I think they're better than the record, and I think if they didn't just absolutely blow it in the beginning of the season, I think Bridgeport would be right there. And I think it shows when they're getting wins against teams like Hartford.
Yeah, and I think Hartford is a team really since Rempe went up. They've kind of struggled a little bit as of late. But you are right. And I wonder, I think Bridgeport, if I'm not mistaken, had a little bit of a coaching change, if not like right before the season started, right after it started, like within the first month of the season, they had a
Yeah.
coaching change. So I also wonder how much of that plays into, your identity. I think here in Springfield, we've kind of felt that a little bit, even though it was an assistant coach being promoted and it seems like the players are on board. We can draw an imaginary line as to kind of where the season turned a little bit, and maybe that's part of their struggles at the beginning too. I will say this, right? We don't play them again this year, so
Thank the Lord.
woohoo, right? Yeah. So although we're not happy to really talk about Bridgeport games, we never will have to do it again this year. We'll talk about them next year. Hopefully, their wins, but
Yeah.
it's
At one point after that, I think it was after Friday night, Bridgeport had 18 wins and 9 of them were against Springfield,
it's nuts.
which is like,
I don't know. I've said this before, and I know it's not fair. I judge a loss against Bridgeport. It feels different when you lose against Providence. Like they did on Sunday. I kind of can walk away from that game saying, yeah, I saw effort. And when they play Bridgeport, I know this isn't fair of me, but regardless of how close it was or whatever, if it's a loss, I'm like, where was the effort? Now, granted, you talked about what were they outshot, like 40, yeah,
it
but
was like
almost
39
2 to 1, 39
yeah.
to 20. So something is wrong. 12 to 3 in the first period at home. You're just like, what? And I don't know. I'm
I
at a
don't think
loss,
I don't
but
think Springfield had their first shot in that game until after the 10-minute mark. Like
yeah,
I think it took like a whole period, and yeah, 12-3, and then they're doubled in shots in the second, 18-9.
yeah,
And it's the kind of thing where you say, well, in all those 9 losses, imagine if they just had 4 more wins, where they would be in the
that's
standings.
it, right?
But at the same time, it's like when Springfield was making all those comebacks, all those third period comebacks, I think at least 2 of them were against Bridgeport.
There was,
So the 9 losses to Bridgeport could easily be 11
yeah,
when you think about it. So, those do kind of go both ways, but yes, let's just
be
be
done.
done with that team for a while. And real quick on Hartford too, you talked about them struggling. I feel like that started, remember we were talking about when they had like 6 game, no, they had in 6
8 games
games.
in 11 nights
Yeah,
or something.
something
Yeah,
ridiculous. They had that ridiculous stretch of 3-3s, like midweek 3-3s.
yeah,
I don't think they've been the same since then.
yeah,
Even I know they're playing. I think it's Tuesday. I think they play in tonight. I don't know why they're
yeah.
playing Tuesday night, but so they're kind of they got a lot going on there. So, but yeah, as we look ahead towards Toronto, I for whatever reason these theme nights just seem to go really really well, and
Yeah.
I think we talked about it last week. The goal differential for a team like Toronto, they score a boatload of goals, and they got one. And Colton Ellis ended up being the second star of the game. If it wasn't for the Gaudette hat trick, he would have been the first star of the game. I thought he
Mhm.
was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, I mean, I want to first give a shout out. Those jerseys were sharp. That pink popping on that charcoal grayish kind of, they were just sharp. Great design. I think by far my favorite pink in the rink jersey. Look, I mean, the Santa Boomer jersey, I think, was my favorite this year as far as the specialty jerseys. I think pink in the rink is a close second. It just really popped. The pregame ceremony, I want to give a shout out again to the production team for putting that together.
Yeah, Lucas Armstrong, the head photographer, is the guy who designed those. And again, just
awesome.
Yeah, top shelf.
Having all the women, all the survivors there on the ice, circled by both Thunderbirds and Marlies players, I thought was awesome and a nice touch. And you're right, it is something about these specialty games. And again, I'm speaking just for me. These are the glimpses. I think I've softened my expectations a little bit. I understand it's a young team, it's a rookie team. There are call-ups, there are injuries right now. So to expect consistency over the course of 3 games, I don't do that anymore. Every game is its own game. And I kind of, I wait to see how the first period goes before I set expectations for what I'd like to see for the game. But they show up and they're ready to play in these specialty nights. They really are.
Mm.
I think they've lost 2, but the rest have all been wins.
I think even the losses were close.
But the losses were
Yeah.
you know, again, you saw fight, you saw energy, you saw hustle.
Getting under the skin, as we're going to talk about in a little bit
Yes,
here.
we'll get there. Yeah. So
yeah, and you know, and shout out to Toronto. They were not supposed to be on the ice circling filling in the other half of the circle. They did that on their own. From what one of the players told me from the box that Kessel actually went over pregame and was like, "Hey guys, just letting you know this is what we're doing. You're not obligated to it. If you want to, you're more than welcome to come on the ice with us, but you know, there's no obligation." And from what I heard, all the Toronto guys were like, "Yeah, no, we're definitely coming out. We'll be right in there with you, hand in hand." So I thought that was pretty awesome. And yeah, they come out in these games with swagger and confidence, and you know, the Gaudette stuff aside, Joey Duzak, man, I can't say enough about this guy. I find him so fascinating. I hope he's on this team forever. You know, we talked to him at the beginning of the season, and I asked him when he switched over to defense, and he's like, wow, I felt like I feel like everybody should know how to play every other position.
Yep.
And he's been on the forward for what, like a month? Been playing forward. He had a goal against Bridgeport. He had another one against Toronto. It's like everything you ask this guy to do. I mean, imagine if he was 3 inches taller, with the amount of smack he talks and the way he carries himself, his bravado.
Yeah, that's it. You could every game he's getting under the skin. He pokes. His smile, right? He just kind of looks at you and smiles in his Joey Duzak way. And I am with you there. We have to give him credit where it's not. I don't know if preferred is the right word to use. It's not maybe his primary professional position playing forward, but he addressed it at our live show at White Lion. Yeah, I used to play forward. I switched to defense. It's hockey. Everybody should know how to play every position, and you can tell he just kind of is like, "Where you need me, coach? I got you." You know, and I give him a lot of credit.
And he's not the first or the last. I know we've had, at least in my time in Springfield, and I believe it was the last regime, the Florida regime, where we've had defensemen who have had to step in and play forward and do that. I know that happens a lot more at this level than the NHL. But I think he does. I mean, I don't think he misses a beat when he's out there in the fourth line. He knows, it looks like he knows what he's doing. And to the people of Toronto, so I don't know the details, but from what I hear, the Joey Duzak exit from Toronto, I don't know. I guess it wasn't pretty. I don't know most of the details, but like the Toronto people still have this grudge. And I mean, mostly the Marlies fans, they still have this grudge against Joey Duzak. And they're sitting there, they're saying, you know, first of all, him turtling was Bush League, and he shouldn't have turtled Kyle Clifford, which we'll get into. But more than anything, they're calling the goal he scored greasy. Oh, that was such a greasy goal. That was nasty.
Yeah.
That was the little pump fake that he gave. And this is the one where he pump faked Petruzzelli, Wilbraham's finest. He pump faked Petruzzelli, got him out of position, swept around the back of the net, and just dumped it in the empty net on a wraparound. It's exactly how you draw it up.
How would you want him? Anyone complaining about that? How would you coach anyone to do it any different?
It's just Toronto being salty.
Shame on you being that drives me nuts. Those Homer fans who
salty.
will argue that the green light is red just because. Like, nope, you got beat, man, and that's what it is.
And a player whose name escapes me, but who was on the bench, who was sticking his stick into Joey Duzak on the way. Now, if you're going to get mad about anything, Joey Duzak doing the on the knee celebration fist bump directly in front of the Toronto bench, you want to get mad about that? Fine. Did they handle that properly? Absolutely not. I thought it was number 86, but I'm looking at the roster. It might have been 83.
I couldn't tell. I tried to rewatch it because we were at the Thunderdome for that, and the boys wanted to hear Ryan's call during all that and kind of wanted to see how he handled it. So I rewatched it and I couldn't tell who it was, but yeah, you can tell that this, and I kind of wanted to call out the officials there, because the stick almost hit them too.
Yeah.
And how you don't address that then sets up what happened afterwards.
Right.
How you don't call a bench infraction something after that, because that was clear as day. He stuck the stick out because immediately, and the ref knew it happened because immediately as it happened, he held back Joey Duzak. He knew what what had happened. He looked at it. He saw it. I feel like the refs should have handled that a little bit better too. And then maybe it wouldn't have escalated to what it did later.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I also think that, and I say this behind the comfort of a microphone, I think that Kyle Clifford is a psychopath, and I think he would have done that anyway.
That's
because
possible.
he's bananas. I mean,
He is a
he's out of
maniac,
his mind.
yes.
And we can go back to days of the LA Kings when he had 141 penalty minutes, and he's and even there, he's a guy who at one point got sent down and said, "I'm not reporting to the minor league affiliate," and then a week later said, "Oh, that also means I'm not getting paid," and then showed up at the facility with his tail between his legs.
Yeah.
That what I saw there was completely psychotic. That's the kind of stuff that fans used to love in the 70s and 80s. And look, it was fun in the 70s and 80s when you had two guys that were willing to go at it. My question for the Duzak was turtling people is, what do you expect Joey Duzak to do?
Yeah.
He's 5'10" on a good day, not a fighter, going up
with his
against
skates on, maybe, right?
Right, going up against a 6'2", 240-pound, 34-year-old man.
Yeah,
who's punched everybody in the league in the face. Like, and just real quick, and
yeah,
the fact that he turtled like he did, which he did, that's what gets you the power play.
Yeah.
Like if he drops the gloves, there's no power play. He probably gets an instigator, but you don't get the 5-minute major. So you have to do that just to get your team on the man advantage.
Yeah. Look, I took this as, Billy Madison, O'Doyle rules, right? Like,
right.
Like, this is what happened, right? Joey Duzak scored a goal, a very pretty goal, did a little punch to the air in your direction. You guys didn't like it. Look, I'm big for, if you don't want him to score, play better on the ice. You lost 5-1 against the team who, we're Thunderbird fans here who are very inconsistent. So this is on you, Marlies. And I see it as to me, you just look like a clown. And again, I am definitely saying this in the comfort
behind the safety of the microphone.
Yes. I would not call him a clown to his face. Right. Nope. But look, how can you call it anything other? You got punked on the ice by this guy. You tried to fight him and he wanted no part of it. At that point, what else are you doing? You're just a maniac. Like, play hockey, go to check him in the boards and then fight him.
Yeah.
Make it more of a hockey. This was nothing more than I'm on the ice because I'm going to try to beat your face in because I can't beat you on the ice. And, you're a clown.
No, that guy had no interest in the puck that was being played.
He actually, and you can see this, I didn't pick it up live, but again, rewatching it on AHL TV, he, if I'm not mistaken, pushed the forward back to play defense. And it looked like he was kind of just like, he talks to, I don't remember what player it was there, but he talks to one of his teammates to say, like, this is what's happening. Go back up a little bit. And he put himself in position. The minute the puck was dropped, he was on a mission. And it was cross-check, slash, and then I'm trying to punch you in the face. And Joey Duzak's like, dude, I'm not fighting you.
Yeah, right.
At that point.
Not with a lead. What does Joey Duzak have to gain out of that?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
nothing.
All right, you then take it and be like, all right, trash talk your way back into the play and play.
Right.
But good for you, Duzak.
And you know what? And good for him too. For how, he could have very easily, once the guy sticked him on the bench, have just turned around and said, go pound sand and skated back to the bench. I kind of like the fact that he was like going after. I mean, he was going after the whole bench. What do you think you're doing? What, like, again, like you said, being a sore loser, you're getting punked on the ice, and now you're going to stick your stick in my face because you stink. Like, get out of here. I'm kind of glad
maybe if you used that stick on the ice, I wouldn't have been able to score a wraparound goal. I don't know. That's just me. Someone who's never played hockey before, right? Go figure.
There was some word circulating among the fan bases that the head coach had sent Kyle Clifford on the ice. I don't know. I don't know how much to look into that or believe that. I do know that when you have a guy like Kyle Clifford on the ice, and if you're the coach, you want something like that to happen,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily have to tap him on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Kyle, here's what I want you to do." You could kind of just give him a wink, give him a nod, and then everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, Kyle Clifford's a psychopath and could have very easily just said, "Coach, I'm going out there and I'm going to pummel this guy." And yeah, right. And it worked out the way it worked out. So, tip of the hat to Joey Duzak. I don't know if you've noticed this, Matt. I'm sure you have. I don't know how you can't. The gloveless handshake that he does with the whole bench. And then he goes back on the ice. The guys on the ice, he gives them like formal handshakes.
Yes.
I don't know where this came from. I want to have him back on to talk about it. But I mean, every time he scores, the whole team takes off their gloves and just starts smiling because they want this gloveless handshake. It cracks me up. Apologies to all the germaphobes out there. There's a lot of touching, but
I've never seen it. I've never seen that before. I don't know. You've seen more hockey on more levels than I have. I've never seen that. Have you?
No. There was a while. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago where the Red Wings, I think it was the Red Wings, when they would score, and the guys that were on the ice wouldn't, stick their hands in the air and hug. They would all take their glove off and they would do this like formal handshake and like. And it was funny. I thought it was funny then. So I don't know if that's where Duzak got the inspiration or if it's something he's done. I don't really remember it much at the beginning of the year, but again, when he was playing defense, he wasn't scoring in bunches like he is at forward. Yeah. So it's more noticeable because the guy's playing good hockey. He's starting to really score some goals and come around. So
good. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. And then again, post-game jersey auction. Hats off to you, the fans. I will say this: that was the rowdiest auction. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to say, but there were kids literally draped over the side, Suzuki, can I have your autograph, Suzuki? Hi, can you sign my stick? Can I have your gloves? Can I have your hat? Where are your socks? I want your socks. Like, it was just, you had that going on. Then there was a couple guys up top that I think had a couple and were just, there's one guy who, I don't know who he is, but he waits until like 10 jerseys are gone. So you don't really know he's there. And then he waits till the bidding is like going once, going twice. And then he just goes, yeah, from like the top deck. And I'm like, oh, it's that guy.
That guy up there.
It was rowdy and it was a lot of fun. The players had a good time.
I'm looking at the results. It looks a great turnout. Big to highlight a little bit. Will Bitton, 3,500. Ellis with his 47 save, 31. Gaudette's hat trick jersey, 3,000. Sam Bitton's up there.
Yeah.
So it looks like, great numbers, good for the team. That's awesome.
Yeah. And again, 100% of that money went to Raise a Hope. So
yeah, that's fantastic.
That's the point. And I think that's part of the reason why the numbers were so big is because that's obviously an organization that I think is important to everybody,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, absolutely. And tip of the hat to Gaudette. We haven't talked about him. He was a man on the mission. I think, again, playing against his former team.
Yep.
I don't think he could be stopped. I don't think Petruzzelli necessarily played his best game in the pipes, but Gaudette was an animal.
Yep.
He was an animal.
He's been on a tear. I mean, we've talked about his year started scorching hot, right? Then he cooled off a little bit. Then he got hot again. And he went up to the NHL, and at least I was thinking, is this going to interfere with it? He stayed hot. He stayed hot for really, he had a little cold stretch there, still early in the season, maybe like a month or so in, he kind of went cold a little bit. But other than that, he's been on fire all season.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Somewhat local too, like local guy here in Massachusetts. So doing it in front of, call it some hometown fans, and happy for him. Hope he sticks around for a little bit.
We asked where the offense would come from without Furk and Highmore, and boy, is he living up to his end of the bargain.
Absolutely.
And Colton Ellis, like you said, 47 saves. I think his positioning is great. His rebound control is great. We didn't really talk about the trade of Subban, which when I saw, I was a little upset about. But I think for me, what I was upset about is the stupid future considerations.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Give me somebody. Give me give me your fourth line. Give me a body. Like, this team is playing forwards on playing defenseman at forward. Can I get just a body? Anybody?
Sure. Yeah.
But it seems like the goaltending situation for the moment is A-okay with Ellis and Zarenko.
Yeah, and that probably has been the plans, from St. Louis top down kind of thing. These are two guys drafted, Zarenko and Ellis, drafted by the Blues, and Subban was great. I think he was great for the community. He was out and about and embraced 413. I wish him the luck. I'll be kind of paying attention to. I believe is it the Blue Jackets affiliate? Is that the Monsters?
Yeah, Cleveland. Yep.
Yeah. So, they are primed now. They're sitting in second place in the North Division, 72 points. So they are going to be making, a playoff push. And, look, solid goaltending. I've always said that. I believe this. Look at Florida Panthers last year in the NHL, right? You get good goaltending, hides a lot of other deficiencies. And, Cleveland now is kind of set, hopefully, to make a deep playoff run. So I'll be paying attention, a little, mixed emotions, I guess. But I wish Subban nothing but the best of luck, and glad we had him in Springfield for 3/4 of the season.
Yeah, and I don't know what I don't pay too much close attention to the Columbus Blue Jackets, quite frankly, but I think they're kind of a hot mess, especially in between the pipes.
Yeah.
And if it's not Subban, it might be another minor leaguer that gets called up, and so he's going to get. I think Cleveland's in a playoff spot, so he's either going to get NHL time or he's going to get a nice AHL run. So
yeah,
good for him on that. And again, I feel like we were talking about it. I think it might have been the Isotopes after the Isotopes game, like you mentioned, how much he embraced Springfield.
Yeah,
and these veteran guys that are on for their fourth or fifth or sixth team. He was at all the events. He was dropping off teddy bears around the holidays. He had the specialty mask made up for the Isotopes game. He came in here and he was 413 for whatever that was, 5 months. And so I wish him nothing but the best. He got us a lot of good marketing, got PK Subban in the building. So good dude, always was super nice every time I had interacted with him. And like you said, I hope that dude absolutely crushes it.
Yeah.
So in a moment, we will be talking to our another fan feature segment, our buddy Brady Deniston, whose voice pretty much everybody's heard in the Mass Mutual Center. If you go to those pregame games, but we do want to remind you that this episode of the podcast is proudly sponsored by our friends at White Lion Brewing in their new location in Amherst on North Pleasant Street, and right in downtown Springfield at Tower Square at 1500 Main Street, the place to go prior to Thunderbirds games. Parking in downtown Springfield is a bit difficult these days. Make sure you park in the Tower Square garage and then swing into White Lion. Show them your T-Birds ticket, and they'll validate your parking for you. While you're there, get some Boomer Nachos, Seuss Mac and Cheese, some Hall of Fame wings, along with any of the 20-plus beers that they have. And don't forget, you can find your favorite White Lion beers in your local liquor store cooler. White Lion Brewing, now in Amherst and in downtown Springfield, a proud local sponsor of the SRG podcast. Make sure you tell Ray Barry and the guys that the fellows from SRG sent you. Sponsored by our friends at YOLO Healthcare Consulting. They offer education, training, tutoring, coaching, and mentoring for healthcare professionals and students. Founding owners Yolanda Mero and Lola Rios are doctorate-prepared nurses with over 40 years combined bedside, academic, and leadership nursing experiences. They also offer assistance to individuals navigating the healthcare system for long-term care and home care planning needs. Founded right here in Western Mass, YOLO Healthcare Consulting are the ones to contact to help you bridge the gap if you're traversing the healthcare landscape. You can reach out to them at yolo.healthcareconsulting@gmail.com, or you can give them a call at 413-627-0609. Tell them that the guys here at SRG sent you. And very thrilled to have our friends from Landscaping That Fits. Spring is in the air, signaling the perfect time to rejuvenate your outdoor space with Landscaping That Fits. Today, Tuesday, was a beautiful afternoon, and I went in the backyard and said, boy, there's a lot of work to do here. Proudly serving the East Longmeadow, Agawam, Springfield, and Wilbraham areas. As temperatures could start to rise like they did today and the ground begins to thaw a little bit, it's prime time for their expert weekly mowing services. Let them ensure your lawn stays in pristine and beautiful condition all season long. You can relax while they handle all the hard work, ensuring your yard becomes the envy of the neighborhood. With Landscaping That Fits, your lawn dreams come to life. You can call them today at 413-847-0338 to schedule your lawn service needs, or visit them online at landscapingthatfits.com. That's Fitz, F-I-T-Z, Landscaping That Fits. They also offer things like spring cleanup, weed and feed lawn service program, mosquito tick control treatments, fall cleanups, aeration and overseeding. If you're hiring 5 different companies to do all those 5 different things, don't bother. Just contact Rob Fitzpatrick and tell him that you want landscaping to Fitz to do that. When you call Rob, make sure you tell him that the boys from SRG sent you. All right, so we are going to talk a little bit about some of the other things involved with the roster. We did have some call-ups. We just had some transactions that happened, and some of these ECHL guys that got called up that have been playing some pretty good hockey. But we do want to get to our fan feature segment, which is sponsored by O'Connell's Irish Pub and Grill, located at 733 Chicopee Street in Chicopee. Easy on and off from 391 with 10 local and craft beers on tap. 9 TVs, late night menu, and weekly live music, sandwiches, flatbreads, even a full kids menu. They always have something to satisfy your hunger. If you're looking for a friendly environment to grab a drink or two, stop by O'Connell's and take a look at their 10 local and craft beers on tap. O'Connell's Irish Pub, located at 733 Chicopee Street, proud sponsor of the SRG podcast. Make sure you tell Blake and everybody behind the bar that the boys from SRG sent you. Let's hear from Brady Deniston, longtime Springfield fan, and pretty darn good on the mic, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's a pleasure to be joined by a Thunderbirds fan, Springfield hockey fan, Brady Deniston, a guy who I'm sure you've seen and heard around the Mass Mutual Center if you come to any of the games. Brady, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it, bud.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm a big fan of the show.
Awesome. Thank you.
Second appearance. It was nice having you on down at White Lion that one time.
Yeah, the Mayflower Marathon event. That was a nice time.
Yeah.
It was. Brady, how long you and your family have been sort of engulfed in hockey here in Springfield?
Well, I started going to hockey games when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. Went to a couple UMass games. That wasn't really my thing. Went to a couple Falcons games back when they were the Blue Jackets affiliate. But Springfield-wise for the Thunderbirds, 2016-17 season, I believe it was Rene Rancor night, was my first ever T-Birds game. And the energy was just electric. The fan support was palpable. Everything about Springfield hockey looked like it had taken a turn for the better, and it was just something we wanted to support. And we got season tickets for the 17-18 season, and we've been supporting the team ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What is it about the Thunderbirds that do you think, if you dabbled a little bit with UMass and the Falcons, what was a little different about the Thunderbirds atmosphere that kept you coming back for more?
Well, I don't know whether it was the ownership or the management, the game presentation, or just recency bias, but I feel like it became just a more fun atmosphere once the Thunderbirds were in town. And I feel like you can attribute a lot of that to, again, the ownership and the management, guys like Nate Costa, all the effort and money that they've put into the team and the franchise and the city itself. The fans really appreciate it. And there's a lot of it. We're all one big family, I guess, is what I'll say.
Oh, it feels like it. We were just talking about my game last night in Boston and how distant it felt for me working there previously compared to what we have going on here in Springfield. Brady, I want to talk to real quick about this. So I remember you doing the national anthem.
Jesus Christ.
And you at the time were young, and how to put this, you had kind of like little kid sort of higher voice. I think you were singing at a pretty high octave. And then the next season you came and you're like, "Hi, I'm Brady. Remember me?" And I'm like, whoa. And then of course you started PA announcing. So what is it about performing, whether it's the anthem or, because that's really what we do, is we're performers, doing anthems. Do you do, first of all, what is it that you love about announcing, and do you do other things? Like, are you involved in like theater or anything like that, or is it just live sports that you're into?
Well, it definitely draws back to sports. Ever since I was old enough to comprehend them, I've been a big sports guy. But clearly I'm in no physical shape to play sports anymore, so I figured best way I can be around sports is talk about them. And I'm quite as the kids would say, I yap a lot. So I just felt like trying it out for my high school would be something to do. It's actually a funny story about how I got into it for my high school. I mic'd myself up at a baseball practice once, and the coach hated it, but he passed my name. He passed my name along, and I ended up getting the job for my high school baseball team. And the rest is history when it comes to that. But I've also been starting to do play-by-play broadcasts for sports. I did it for basketball just before this. I was out in Worcester. But other than that, I used to play the drums, but it's mostly been sports oriented.
But your family's really supportive too. I mean, your mom and dad are great, but they also seem to really, support this part of your life. It's not academics and it's not playing on a team, but it's being involved and doing something that you love and that, again, you're good at. I mean, you are good at what you do.
Appreciate it. And my family's been awesome with the support. My dad, I'm sure you've seen almost every prelim, he's always there, whether he's just sitting in the penalty box, scrolling through his phone, helping operate the doors, reminding me to do the last minute of play in the period because I constantly forget. The other day, and this is going off topic again, but they had the scorers table on our side. They were trying to test it out for the NCAA tournament. And Ace, the wonderful timekeeper for the Thunderbirds, was over there, and he reminded me every time. And I'm like, I'm doing it. That's on my game for it that time. But yeah, the family support's great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. How did you? So my kids, like when the games we are able to go to, my kids like to go early. They always enjoy watching the prelim games. How did you get into that gig? I mean, you really do. You do a great job. The first time my kids hear it, they're like, "Wait, Steve does these games too, almost." So how did you get into PAing for these prelim games before the Thunderbirds?
And I'll be perfectly honest with you. A few years ago, the 21-22 season, my high school did a prelim game there, and I reached out to Matt McRobbie. I said, "Hey, you want somebody to do the public address announcements for these? I do it for my high school baseball team. Why not try doing it for a hockey team?" He said, "Have at it." I did it. It seemingly went great. Did another one the year after, and then I was asked to do the street hockey tournament that they put on every year out at Amelia Park in Westfield. Andrew Buchanan reached out for me for that, and at the beginning of the season, team reached out. They're like, "Hey, we want a prelim announcer. You come to most of the games. Can you do them?" And I said, "Sure." But I don't have I have a 22 game pack. I'm not at all the games, but Steve Brusso, the ticket reps, stepped up and said, "Whatever game you don't have tickets to, I'll provide you with my tickets." So I've been at all 3 games this year.
It's awesome.
Man, what does it say to you about the front office? And it's one of the things we talked about in the show, but like, I know you mentioned it's like a family, but it says a lot about not only the kind of people that Nate hires, but I feel like they have this willingness to go out of their way for the people in that building sitting in those seats. And, you're one of them.
Yeah. Everybody in that front office they're incredible human beings. There's such a camaraderie between the front office and the fans themselves. Like, just touching back on Steve Brusso, I feel like he's almost a friend to me more than he is a sales representative. I'm in his fantasy baseball league, for Christ's sake. It's just, they really interact with you on a personal level, and it creates great relationships, and it's created so many longtime supporters and season ticket holders and fans who keep coming back for more because they know they can count on a relationship and an atmosphere that is welcoming.
That's awesome.
Well said. You are, Brady, a wealth of knowledge. I can't wait to hear this. What is your favorite memory? Going back, Falcons, Thunderbirds, what is your favorite memory surrounding this team in the Thunderdome?
That is a very good question. I mean, I feel like it's super basic, but again, recency bias gets me. The goalie goal, the Joel Hofer goalie goal in the Calder Cup playoffs a few years back, that was incredible. I if I ever intend to get a tattoo at some point, it's going to be that quote. If that doesn't get you fired up, you don't have a pulse.
Yeah.
I just think that whole run to the Calder Cup final that we made back in 2022, that was something that the whole city rallied behind the team. And I think that it really showed what we as a community can achieve even through sports. And like they had an intro video with Doc Emmerich that in the voiceover, and they said a city familiar with basketball ended up getting into hockey. And, it just showed that Springfield and Western Mass was able to support a team like that, like they couldn't with the Falcons, and the Falcons had like barely any fan support toward the end of that, but the Thunderbirds had really ramped that up, and just showing that the community was around that.
No, it's so true, and it's crazy too. Like, it's amazing how many sales reps aren't from Western Mass. Like Ryan's from Pennsylvania. I don't know if Steve's local, but I don't think Andrew's local. Like a lot of these guys, they either go to like Westfield State or they go to UMass or something like that. But they just feel like they're part of.
I know Andrew's
part of the group.
I want to say Steve's from like upstate New York.
Yeah.
But yeah.
John Jones is from Florida.
Yeah. I mean, we won Team of the Year for AHL's like management. We've won it at least twice. I think we've won it a few times. But our front office, our ticket sales staff, everybody's just great, and people know that. And once people get to know what happens in Springfield, they're more apt to apply for jobs and, end up taking them at some point.
That's great.
I guess I just have one more question. Brady, thank you so much for coming on with us. Give us your thoughts on this version of the Thunderbirds.
Good Lord. Where do we start? I have a love-hate relationship with this team. I think that one of the bigger things that's harming us right now, because the T-Birds are in a state of mediocrity right now. We can beat the good teams, yet I think Steve told me this stat the other night. Bridgeport has 18 wins on the season. 9 of them, they beat us. And, I think it falls back to, I don't know what happened when Drew Bannister got the NHL call, but I don't know if Dan Tkachuk's coaching strategy in Springfield has proven effective. We've seen 3 different faces as assistant coaches behind the bench. We saw Chris Thorburn, we saw Glenn Wesley, and we saw one other guy who I wasn't sure who it was.
Me neither.
But it's just coaching itself. It's been a whirlwind, and I also think goaltending was an issue. Malcolm Subban, appreciate everything he did in Springfield, but he also missed a lot of saves that he really should have made. Vadim Zarenko was extremely inconsistent leading up to his injury. Colton Ellis was the spark that this team needed, and seeing him drastically improve from the way he did in 2022 was extremely reassuring in what the team can do. Defense is also another issue. Matt Kessel, decent defenseman, sort of slow playing the AHL like a lot of the NHL quality guys do. Callie Rosen seems to be doing the same. Dylan Coughlin, it's a matter of whether he stays healthy now. He was out a couple games. Same thing with Wyatt Kalynuk. I think that should be our top 2 D pairing. I haven't seen too much of Leo Loof. I think Joey Duzak has a lot of offensive upside. Skinner and Osmanski, great for physicality. Not 100% sure about anything else. But scoring-wise, we have the depth. It's just injury now. You've got guys like Adam Gaudette, who you can guarantee almost a point per game. Zach Dean just got the call of the NHL. He was on a point streak. Zach Bolduc went up a few months ago. He was doing great. Mackenzie McEachern sidelined for a while. So is Matthew Pekka. And you guys, I think, mentioned that at some point. And Hugh McGing's out right now. It's a matter of staying healthy for the scoring. But overall, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, especially if we want to slip into that last wild card spot and take over Lehigh Valley.
That's great. I think of all that, I think this is my guy. He said you haven't seen much of Leo Loof, and that's a good thing because that guy's played a lot of hockey and he's unnoticeable, which means he's doing his job. Because
he's my guy.
Anton Malmstrom's played like 4 games, and he's very noticeable, and it's not in a good way.
Yeah, Holmstrom, he's a great guy to talk to, but just seeing him play hockey, he's definitely not what he was toward the end of last season. I liked him a lot toward the end of last season when he was on that. I think it was second D pairing with Tommy Cross, but I think they meshed really well together.
It's interesting. Well, Brady, we really appreciate you taking the time. I still want to have like a spin-off episode where we create a fantasy lineup of the best players that we've seen come through Springfield. And that's, Gensel and Pasternak and Monty, your guy who again got lit up the other night for Montreal. Sorry, Monty.
Quiet.
But Tristan Jarry and Swayman and that we've seen a lot of really, really good hockey players come through Springfield. Matt McAvoy's first shift was on the ice in Springfield. So we are going to get to that spinoff episode. So that's a great summer project.
That's a summer. Yeah.
And I also wouldn't mind just bringing it into just Springfield players, because you've got guys like Mackenzie Weegar, Jared McCann, going back to the Falcons. You've got Michael Chaput. You've got Cam Atkinson, Ryan Johansson, Curtis McElhenney. There was a lot of great guys to come up through the ranks.
Mike McKenna.
Devin Dubnik. It just goes to show that the development in Springfield has been effective for years, and there's no sign of slowing down as it is right now.
It's awesome. Well, Brady Dennison, super fan. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being part of our fan feature. We appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. And before I leave, I was told by someone who I will not disclose here, I needed to mention Jameson Reese before I leave. So Jameson Reese.
All right, Jameson Reese. Cool. Good luck to him in Charlotte.
Yeah, missed that guy.
I did too.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Brady, thanks for hopping on with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, there goes our pal Brady Denniston, longtime fan, always sits behind me, always full of knowledge. I mean, as you could tell, he's smart, man. The kid loves the sport. He does great work over there at South Hadley High. Does a great work in the pre-games, the prelims. I know he wants my job so bad. I hate to tell you, buddy, I'm not going anywhere. So, but I'm happy to write you a letter of recommendation to the New York Islanders, the Montreal Canadiens, the Boston Bruins. I'm happy to support you. But it was good. It's always good to catch up with him. So we are going to talk a little bit about some of the roster stuff. I didn't know, Matt, if there was any takeaways from that game on Sunday for you, the 5-0 loss to Providence, which, again, I don't think the score was indicative of how well the Thunderbirds played, but I don't know. What were your thoughts on that one?
My thoughts, actually, I mean, look, I think they actually played pretty well. To be realistic, they are an inferior roster at the moment, injuries, call-ups, and what have you. We've talked about it. I think the Bruins are playing really good hockey right now, like really good. I believe they're like 7-3 in their last 10 too, which is best in the division. The effort was there. I thought team defense, I saw a little bit more forecheck and back check, coming through the neutral zone, which was good. They showed fight. They got outmanned, and it was their third. Here we go with the run of threes here. It was their third 3-3 in 3 weeks. And the second half of the third period, they just got tired. I thought Colton Ellis played well. Back-to-back nights. I was a little surprised in that. I haven't heard anything going on with Z, but he was on the bench as the number 2 goalie. But they hadn't, with Zarenko and Subban and Ellis and Subban, no one ever went 2 nights in a row. So I was surprised. Ellis earned it, deserved it, but surprised to see Ellis between the pipes. That was kind of my takeaway. It wasn't as bad as the box score will tell you. If you're just looking at a 5-0 headline, you would expect that means the Thunderbirds got dominated. I didn't feel that way watching it. For 3/4 of the game, they were in it.
Yeah.
And fighting. It just, once that third goal hit, you're kind of like, all right. And I think, again, third game, third 3-3 in 3 weeks, you hit that third goal. look, I don't know. If it's me, I'm kind of like, all right, well, let's just get out of here healthy.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
And I'm not saying that was the mindset of anybody on the ice. They're out there trying and playing, but we're human, and how could you not have just a little bit of, all right, well, let's play. Let's try to get one. Nobody wants to get shut out. Let's try to get one, but let's get out of here healthy.
yeah. Oh, definitely. And I mean, you look at the roster and that they put out, it's ridiculous for Providence. How many of those guys have been up in Boston this year?
Mm-hmm.
Alec Regula is something I'm just looking at that. I think off the top of my head, I think he's like plus 36, plus 37, which is just outrageous. I think he leads the league in that category. And, you know, the first period to me was so telling because, I mean, first of all, to rewind a little bit against Toronto, one of the main issues that I had was that they gave up three really, really straightforward breakaways.
Yep.
Like, and they were like, oh my good, like, and Ellis,
Yeah.
that to me was the difference in the game, that Ellis stopped all three of those. One of them was really early in the game.
Yes.
The difference here is they give up a shorthanded breakaway
Yeah.
and Megna buries it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the difference between the talent on Providence and the talent on Toronto is if you give them a breakaway, they're going to score.
Yeah.
And that was a forehand, backhand, top shelf, you know, just a beautiful goal. There wasn't much Ellis could do there, but that's a problem defensively. Why are we giving away 4 blatant breakaways in basically 4 periods? You know, I think that's an issue defensively, but you know, and then on the other side of things, they had within the first period 3 golden opportunities, and Bussy was just like nails. I mean, he didn't give them an inch to scratch, and it very easily could have been the Thunderbirds could have easily had 3 goals in that first period, and Bussy was the man. So that's what happens on either end when you give up one opportunity on one end and then you get stoned on the other end. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like Bussy, I think I was texting you like, wow, look, I don't watch a lot of Providence games unless they're playing the Thunderbirds. And, you know, Bussy in Military Appreciation Night played well, but you dented him. You got him.
Right.
He was, I wonder too, and Ryan kind of said this, you know, he hasn't been playing his best hockey against Springfield. And is this Bussy saying like, no more, you know, something we can't do to the Bridgeport Islanders. We, you know, for whatever reason, they're in our head. Bussy exercise the demons for this one,
right.
because I can't think of a goalie performance like that in a while.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, it was impressive.
He was playing off his head.
So, you know, that's definitely the difference in teams and competition. And, you know, it was a big night for them. It was their teddy bear toss night, which is weird that it comes so late in the season. But
yeah,
you know, I think right now, and I see the record, but I think that Providence is the best team in the division. I don't think Bridgeport is the worst team in the division.
Yeah.
You know, I think that kind of goes both ways. And the way that I think we said this last year, though. I think last year we said Providence is a shoe-in to win it all, and they got knocked out, and then Hartford came out of nowhere. So that's why you got to love the playoffs when they come up and sneak up. But, you know, just one other thing. Sometimes teams get weird with certain stuff. And right before, I believe, the Military Appreciation Night, the game before, Providence scored 3 shorthanded goals. Then they came here and scored another shorthanded goal. Then Sunday, they get another shorthanded goal. I mean, at this point, can we just decline penalties? If you're playing against them, you just penalties declined, first down. Like, you don't even want any part of it.
We can't score a power play goal anyway. So
right. So you might as well just go 5-on-5. So, you know, but like you said, they played hard. I mean, they ran out of steam in the end and gave up a couple, and it is what it is. But especially a guy like Colton Ellis, who's playing back-to-back at this level. I don't know if he's ever done that. You know, 2 games in under 24 hours. What are you going to do? So, like I said, they should have had 2 points. They should have had 4 points coming out of this weekend. I didn't expect them from Providence game. That means that they should have come from the Bridgeport game. But enough about Bridgeport, Steve. Get over Bridgeport. Stop talking about Bridgeport. Just a couple of quick roster things. As we saw earlier this week, Matt, if you wanted to touch on it at all, that Zach Dean was recalled by St. Louis.
Yep, and Kessel as well.
And Kessel, yeah.
So two big call-ups. We're happy for them. You know, it does hurt the Thunderbirds. I'm curious, and I I haven't had time to dig into the Blues roster situation, but after calling up, the reason Kessel was sent down, right, was because they needed that roster spot, and he was the one to clear waivers. So he gets called back up. I haven't seen anybody sent down, and then Zach Dean gets called up, and look, that hurts. I haven't seen anybody called up. I haven't heard any news about someone on, going on the IR or anything like that. So I am still trying to dig into this, but my basic math tells me two people. If you needed to send Kessel down because you didn't have space, if you bring two people up, two people are missing.
Right. Where's the space?
Where
come
are
from?
they? So
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find it yet. I have noticed. I mean, I do check the lineups for every game of the Blues. I haven't seen Alexandrov in there in a while. I haven't seen Tucker in there in a while. I do know, based on pictures from some of the front office guys, I believe Alexandrov was warming up Monday night, but he hasn't been playing. So, but I don't know. I mean, I look, we're happy for them. So I feel a little bad complaining about it, but it's not good news for the Thunderbirds, who right now are in a tie for that last playoff spot with the Phantoms. So every game now, I mean, look, the playoffs, I've talked about feeling like they needed to play playoff hockey for a while now. Their playoffs start right now. They are in the playoffs, and 15 games left. You are tied for that last playoff spot. So your playoffs start now, and Dean going up is not good for us. But, does that mean hopefully Pekka's getting healthy, McGing, all these guys who have been out? I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what the roster looks like by the week's end. And again, you're exactly right. And they're 5 points behind Charlotte, and you got 2 games down there this weekend. So
yeah,
you win them both, you're within 1 point of them. And we are technically tied with Lehigh Valley, but they have 2 games in hand. So
yeah,
realistically, there it goes to point percentage. They're in a better spot. We are. I'm wondering if I understand that we're not St. Louis's top priority. All right, I get that. But with the trade deadline last week, there was a point, and I think we talked about it, where you had to send guys to if you wanted your guys to be AHL eligible, you had to send them down, even just a paper transaction. You had to send them down on Friday. And they did it for Bolduc, which makes sense because I didn't even think he has to clear waivers. But they, whether it was Alexandrov, Tucker, Torpo, even guys like Marco Scandella, who I always get the two of them confused. Scandella and the other one. Either way, there's another.
Krunovich?
No. An older, sort of overpaid 30-something defenseman. Besides Scandella, but maybe it is Scandella. No, I don't know. Maybe
We'll figure it out.
Anyway, you could make a paper transaction and have one of those guys clear waivers, so at least it's an option. So now when you're like, well, we got to call up Kessel and Dean, but hey, guess what? We can send down Alexandrov and Tucker. They can't even, or even Nathan Walker. They can't do that now. So if you're St. Louis, you don't want to send Bolduc down.
Yeah,
but you might have to because he's your only option. So
yeah,
I would think there's a little bit of regret of trying to sneak some of those guys, at least 1 or 2 of them, through waivers on Friday, just for body's sake. I don't think everyone's clamoring to take Tyler Tucker and Nathan Walker on the waiver wire.
Well,
on a Friday.
This is an odd thing, and you're right. I mean, the Blues they're not as concerned as they want their players developed. That's their concern here in Springfield, but they're not overly concerned with the results here in Springfield. They just want their players developed. But, looking as much as I have this year, paying attention to the Blues roster, there have been some questionable moves that they've made. Like, even you're sending down Nathan Walker at the beginning of Walker at the beginning of the season to clear waivers. We're sitting there holding our breath, hoping that Walker, Rosen, and McEachran clear waivers. a month into the season or a few months right after Bannister gets called up. Now you're giving him a 2-year extension. Happy for him. Happy for him. Deserves it. Love the guy. But I'm like, well, wait, you basically released him to waivers
Right.
a few months ago. And what did you see? Like, you didn't know what you had, and now you're giving him a 2-year extension. I wonder too, clearly speculating on my end, but if that sort of turned people off, Verana, other guys maybe on the Thunderbirds, like, well, if you're giving him a 2-year extension, am I not getting another shot this year? Kind of, was there a little bit of that? Because that's an odd move to make after you just sent the guy down to clear waivers. He could have been picked up by anybody. You released him. You were okay with him going to another team, and then a month and a half later, you're giving him a 2-year extension. He deserves it. He's playing great. He was great here in Springfield. He's still playing well up there in St. Louis, but you didn't know that 2 months ago?
Right.
Right. So there's just been, in my mind, some questionable moves in St. Louis that, but I'm way outside looking in.
Right. And I mean, even I saw, I think this past week, they re-signed Oscar Sundqvist to a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 21 points in 65 games. He's a -6. Like,
yeah.
He's a good centerman. He's a good fourth line, third line centerman. I get that. But Oscar Sundqvists are literally a dime a dozen in that league. I mean, you can find them. You can go down to Warrior Ice Arena. You can go down to Amelia Rink and find an Oscar Sundqvist. So,
and I wonder too, like, again, this is maybe a little bit of a fun thought experiment to have here. I know we don't have a lot of time to get into it, but what is the future, the foresight of the Blues organization? That has so much to do with what happens here in Springfield. You've got guys, Jimmy Snuggerud, Dvorsky, guys who are, what are you going to do with them if Bolduc and Dean are part of this young core that you're now developing, and now you're extending Walker, you're extending Sundqvist? What does that mean for here in Springfield? Who are you? Does that mean a guy like Alexandrov next year clears waivers and he's in Springfield? Tyler Tucker too, who's not getting a lot of ice time. I don't know, but it's all things where, if I don't know. Like I said, I'm way on the outside looking in, but just
no, but I get what you're saying, and even you didn't want to put Sammy Blaze on waivers. I mean,
yeah,
Sammy, so what does Sammy Blaze do? I don't watch a lot of games. Tell me what that guy does. And again, you mentioned Dvorsky, Snuggerud. I think Snuggerud's a winger, but Dean, Bolduc, and Dvorsky are all listed as centers.
Yeah.
So it's like, Braden Shen's your captain, and you just traded for Kevin Hayes for some reason, and now you're signing Sundqvist. Well, where do you plan on?
Where are you putting these guys?
If you're not playing them in Springfield, where are you playing them? And I said the same about Alexandrov. You bring him up if you're going to play him. He's played 19 games. He has 1 point. It's like, what are we doing?
So, at that point, I mean, like I said, partly so. Again, I want these guys to be playing in the NHL.
Right.
But if you're only playing 19 games, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. So
it doesn't make a ton of sense.
But we do have, we mentioned the call-ups, Braden Guy, Mitchell Holscher's back, Tanner Dickinson, his second stint here. I had to look up Braden Guy. I had no idea who he was, if I'm being honest.
Who is this guy?
Who is this guy? But he's been in 40 games in the ECHL this year. He's played for the Reading Royals and the Orlando Solar Bear. He's got 40 games, 7 goals, 5 assists. Looks like throughout the course of the season, he's a -9. Yeah, that's who that guy is.
Yeah, that guy, Braden Guy.
But I thought, Dickinson and Holscher, I think they play well.
Yeah,
I don't have. Yeah, I don't have complaints. I don't necessarily feel as though they are a liability to the team when they're out there. They're hustling. And again, at the end of the day, for me as a fan, if I feel like I'm watching my team hustle, I can live with what the results are. If my teams are forechecking, back checking, fighting through the neutral zone, playing where they're supposed to be, I can live with the results. And I feel like those guys have done that when their time is called this year. So,
Oh, definitely. And one other kind of roster note now I can let the cat out of the bag at least a little bit for anybody who was at the jersey auction. I don't know what the timetable is here for Matt Pekka, but he's very much in a cast and very much kind of crutching and wheeling around. And he did say that I talked to him briefly. He said it was from the slapper that he took from, I think it was Verona.
Off of Verona.
Yeah, who hit him with that. And so he's got a bunch of stuff going on, and they give you a time frame, but they give you a time frame, but what is that? Is that when I get the cast off? What's the time from when my cast gets off to when I'm hockey ready? Like those kind of things. So wish nothing for the best for him. I mean, 15 games left. I do feel bad. He missed a lot of time last year and a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but he's going to miss most of the end of the season. So we wish him nothing but the best. But as we mentioned earlier, looking forward here, 2 games down in Charlotte this weekend. And we make note of the time as well. Saturday, 4 o'clock. Love that. We need more of those here. Saturday at 4. Love those games. Talk about for the families. And then
Sundays at 1.
Sundays at 1. Which is a great time too. So big couple games here, Matt.
Playoffs. I mean, what more could you ask for, right? And if there's one thing we can say about the inconsistency, at least they get up for these big moments. They've played Charlotte well this year. They're 3-1 over their previous 4 games with Charlotte this year. So I am expecting, look, you got to win 2 games. You got to win them. You're 5 points behind. Win them. And I know everybody on the team is going to feel the same way. They'll be ready. You're not playing Friday night. You're not playing Wednesday. So rested, relaxed. Hopefully coach is working on, a little bit of that power play D-line to D-line pass so it doesn't get broken up into a breakaway. But let's win, T-Birds. We got it,
For real. So big thank you to Brady Denniston for joining the show. We really appreciate him coming on and his time. See him around the Mass Mutual Center. Make sure you go say hi to him. Big thank you to our friends at White Lion Brewing in Tower Square in downtown Springfield and in Amherst. Big thank you to YOLO Healthcare Consulting. Again, you can reach out to them at yolo.healthcareconsulting@gmail.com. A big thanks to our friends at Landscaping That Fits. Proudly serving East Longmeadow, Agawam, Westfield, and the Wilbraham areas. Again, they are at Landscaping That Fits, FITZ.com. And lastly, look at us. This is nuts. Our friends at O'Connell's Irish Pub and Grill, who sponsor the fan feature segment, which featured Brady. So again, all of these companies that are helping us out, local places, happy to have them a part of the show. And then we'll do us, Matt. We'll do it again next week.
We'll see you next week. Yeah, thank you, Brady. You always learn something when you have a chat with Brady. I love it. So thank you, Brady, for hopping on. Thank you, listeners. Keep the social media content coming. Questions and your discussion topics. We love hearing from you. Big weekend this week, and let's go, team.